This is the Google Pixel 6a, Google's latest budget-friendly, lowest-tier smartphone that comes in at a list price of $449. Despite it being a budget device, I've seen a lot of drama, complaining, and criticisms for it. It has a 60Hz screen. Wow, this phone has a higher refresh rate screen is better. Wow. Well, here's the hard truth, tech nerds. It wasn't made for you. But Brandon, what do you mean? Okay, it was made for some of you, and if you want to purchase it, there's a link in the description that you can use to buy it and help support the channel. Now, my fellow geek, I'll explain who this is for right after this sponsor, who I know is definitely for you. If you own a Pixel phone, you've got to check out the free Pixel Academy e-course by Android Intelligence. When you sign up, you'll get 7 easy-to-follow emails full of helpful tips and tricks to make you a Pixel master. You'll certainly find something that you never knew about. I did. The automatic sound leveling using the built-in rule automation is crazy, and you can sign up for the Pixel Academy through the link in the description. It's completely free and just an awesome resource. With the Google Pixel 6a, Google continues its highly successful A-series smartphones, but with greater refinement, brand cohesion, and confidence than ever before. Not only does it boast the same iconic Google Pixel design language established with the Google Pixel 6 with its bold camera bar that you can see from across the room, but it gains the flagship level Google Tensor chip found in their flagship Google Pixel 6 Pro. It also comes with the same software and security updates and software features like Live Transcribe, Hold the Phone, Magic Eraser, and more. On top of that, it has that fantastic Google Pixel camera that lives up to the Google Pixel reputation. And one of the best parts about it is that I can just pick it up and hold it, and I can't help but notice how amazing it feels in the hand. The fit and finish is so nice that I could trick a professional reviewer into thinking that the plastic back is made out of glass. It feels shockingly well made, refined, comfortable, and the right balance of having a smaller form factor with a screen that doesn't feel small at all, but actually quite nice. To me, this feels like the perfect size if you prefer a smaller phone, but still want that large screen experience. The crazy thing is that this is only $449, and if you time things right, you can get it for $150 with a trade-in. And if you got it at launch, you are given that trade-in plus a free pair of $99 Pixel Buds A. I can't think of a phone that better fits my description of a great delight to dollar ratio. But, and some of you are about to get roasted, but many of you hate this phone. You think it's a ripoff, a terrible buy-in. Anyone who buys one is dumb because it doesn't even have a higher refresh rate screen, it doesn't have wireless charging, the processor you want, tons of storage, RAM, and whatever thing you can nitpick about. And by the way, while I'm on #Team Pixel, I actually lost the unit they sent me, so I had to buy another unit with my own money. This phone right here isn't #gift from Google, so don't pull that card to me. And let's be honest, I'm not gonna shill just because they send me a $450 phone. The reality is I can say whatever I want without worrying about what Google thinks, and that's how it's always been. I freaking leak out their stuff early, and they still send me phones. You think I'm afraid to say what I want? If anyone questions my integrity, I'm confident many people who have been here for a while will actually vouch for me. The fact that someone tried to convince us that they were an authority we should listen to was able to provide a credible review because they have the phone in their hand at the moment only to be caught in a lie, showing that they just took the pictures off of a news site, well, that's just wild. When this bozo was doing this whole thing, I didn't even have the phone yet, and Google sends me the phones early. It shows how crazy the hate and weirdness some of you have for anything Google Pixel. And you don't even spread the hate and criticism evenly, that's for sure. If you're one of the people whining and complaining about every little thing about the Pixel 6a and lying about things rather than providing constructive, realistic, and reasonable feedback, then this phone wasn't made for you. Google probably didn't even have you in mind when they made this phone, and you probably weren't going to buy it anyways, so go touch grass. It's astounding how many of you don't understand how business works and the considerations and trade-offs that go into creating a physical product, the logistical hurdles, budgeting, and the bureaucracy required, especially for a complex product like a smartphone. Expecting it to have a higher refresh rate screen, the thinnest and most even bezels out there, wireless charging, a different third-party flagship processor, tons of storage options, and all the cameras of a flagship, and you think it's overpriced? Well, it just makes no sense. Some of you sound like you'd go into a Denny's or order a $15 steak expecting a $300 Wagyu steak, and when you don't get what you want, you whine about it. You can't have everything and expect a company to sell a phone at that price point or even a lower price point. Don't even get me started on inflation and the supply chain. Some of you don't even know what a SKU is, let alone understand how expensive having multiple of them is. But Samsung, ZTE, Xiaomi, and Redmi offers all that, and it costs the same. So many of you point out the Samsung A53 5G because it's the only real comparable option in the United States, and it has a lower tier Exynos processor. According to Max Weinbach, Samsung worked on their version of Android 13 and One UI on the Samsung Galaxy S22 Ultra, and then they port down their version of the OS requests and optimizations down from the flagship down to the budget devices. And the result isn't that great. What's the point of having a high refresh rate screen if it has lag on it that I haven't seen on an Android phone in years? Forget about using it for years to come because it doesn't even work well now, and this phone isn't even running Android 13 yet. The Google Pixel 6a, on the other hand, has Google Tensor, which is the same processor used all the way up into their flagship, the Google Pixel 6 Pro. And you know what? It runs so well. Even on the budget Pixel 6a, it can consistently run Apex Legends at 60 Hz if you wanted. But what about ZTE's, Xiaomi, and Redmi? I mean, I've used many of their phones. I have some of their phones right now. Have you guys actually used or even owned any of them before, or are you just owning it in your imagination while reading a spec sheet comparison chart on the internet? You know, because I actually own them. Not only do they have a ridiculous, ugly, and often cartoony looking skin, but they hardly have any software support, are loaded with tons of bloatware and services that they want you to use that you can't uninstall. They potentially have no Google software, especially if it's a Chinese version, but that's not even the worst part. The haptics are loud, hollow, imprecise, and cheap feeling. And the cameras, despite having 3, 4, 20 camera lenses, all suck. Sure, that's a comparison that makes sense. The fact that you accept all that sacrifice and junk for a high refresh rate screen makes me think I could just put a 250 Hz refresh rate screen from Radio Shack, 69 gigs of RAM, 1 TB storage, an 8,081,355 mAh battery, and 2 of whatever Qualcomm's latest processor is into a cardboard box with duct tape, and you think it's the best thing in the world. But of course, it can't be any more than $500. What's wrong with you? Specs alone don't make the phone. When you look at a phone, you have to look at things holistically. Much like a symphony of various instruments, a smartphone consists of various things from the hardware design, fit and finish, specs, software, services, and more that work together to create something that works together in harmony with each other. When all those various parts play together well, it creates something that is a delight to use and feels like every component was intentionally put there and belongs there just the way it is. That's way better than a device that has parts that don't all play well together and has parts that hog the attention while others lag behind, like a poorly performing symphony orchestra. And here's the truth. Most people don't care about specs, they care about the experience. And sure, specs can help with that experience, but again, specs alone don't make the phone. Even crazier, I've heard some of you say that Google makes enough money so they can take a loss on every unit. And it just becomes obvious that none of you have ever run or managed anything at a business before, nor do you understand the requirements for a publicly traded company. Google Alphabet isn't a charity. They're trying to make a profit off of you. Why do you feel entitled to a handout? Is it because you're a special snowflake? Here's one of the biggest issues I see within the tech community. Many of you think that every piece of tech ever created was made for you, had you in mind, and must adhere to what you want. But it's wrong. Not every piece of tech was made with you in mind. You're not the center of the universe. It's insane and quite arrogant to think this way. So stop it. So now that I'm done roasting the tech nerds, let's talk about who the Google Pixel 6a was made for. If you really want to know who Google's targeting, then look at the announcement of the Google Pixel 6a, the advertisements, and their website. It's really clear who the phone is for. You see, it doesn't lean on specs or percentage difference improvements from the prior generation like they do on the Google Pixel 6 Pro page. The only number that you'll see until you get to the spec sheet and comparison section has to do with the battery life. That's it. No mention of RAM, storage, refresh rates, or anything like that. It's almost like the purpose of the phone isn't the specs. Instead, they emphasize that it is a smart, powerful, and affordable phone from Google. The most spec-focused thing they focus on is Google Tensor, which is the same chip that's on the Pixel 6 Pro, and that's what allows it to be smart and powerful. Wow. A flagship processor in a budget phone. Only Apple has been doing that with their phones until now. Wild. On top of that, Tensor allows it to run fast, smooth, and even do crazy things like translating languages in real time. That seems like a pretty good deal and even shocking to experience on a budget phone. And they didn't even talk about incredible features that can be processed natively on the device, like hold the phone, call screening, Google Lens, and whatever comes in the future, since Google will continually add features and provide support for it for years to come. Beyond that, it's the things that the majority of people care about the most. It has good battery life that adapts to the way that you use the phone to get even more out of it with adaptive battery. It has security hardware built into it so your phone is secure, and it has water resistance. In the past, the A-series devices didn't have that water resistance and always resulted in me suggesting it to a friend, but there's this little downside of it not having water protection. Well, that caveat is gone now, so that's great. It has a great camera that performs well, looks good, and captures the moments you care about, including with those squirrely pets or kids, whether it's in the dark or light. Even better, it captures people and processes photos to make them look true to life with real tone. The reality is that the Google Pixel 6a manages to take pictures that look better than some phones that cost over $1,000, all with a simple tap of a button. And that's it. It's that simple. It even has some of Google's crazy software features that allows you to magically erase something from a photo or camouflage it so it doesn't hog the attention from the main subject. This is a $450 phone, by the way, and its camera can give a $1,000 plus phone with a ton of specs a run for its money. That's crazy. You see, the majority of people are just going to use the phone and enjoy it. They're not going to sit there staring at it and twisting and turning it to see if and when it starts to discolor, which is right here. Who freaking watches things on their phone at this angle? Look how stupid it looks. This is how you look. Stupid! It wasn't made for the spec nerds. It was made for the price conscious, the college students that can't spend 3 times the amount on the latest flagship. It was made for the everyday worker whose worth in life isn't all about tech. It was made for the moms and the dads. If someone like my dad walked into a store, he'd look at the latest iPhone 69 Pro Max and Samsung S420 Ultra Note, look at the price and say, oh, why would I need that? It's too much. The sales associate will ask him if he wants a big screen so it's easy to read, and he'll say, these phones are too big. You see, I just can't reach the top and I have a problem with my thumb. I just can't use it. I'd rather have a smaller phone. Plus, I could just make the text bigger and then hand it back. Plus, that's an easy solution. And then the sales associate will think of something cliche like, what about this wireless charger? You can just plop it on this and it charges. Isn't it cool? And then my dad would just say, why don't you just plug it in? Why do I need that? And at that moment, the sales associate will realize my dad doesn't care about anything fancy and expensive and points out the Google Pixel 6a. And my dad will say, Google? I like Google. And then he'll hold it in his hand and say, hey, this is small like my current phone. It feels pretty good in the hand. And then he'll realize the screen is also bigger than mine. Oh, it has a good camera too. Oh, it gets super wide. That's pretty cool too. This is gonna be so good for the grandkids, but he'll get a little worried and ask, is this expensive? It feels like an $800 phone. And then the sales associate will say, no, it's only $449 before trade-in. And my dad will say with surprise, that's not too bad. Not bad at all. And boom. The sales associate had a good sales day, made an easy sale, and then my dad will go on about his day with a Pixel 6a. In America, my dad, the everyday person, won't have a clue about options from Xiaomi or Redmi, and most won't care about all the little things us tech nerds care about. They want a phone from a company they're familiar with, that feels great, looks great, works great, and adds to and improves their lives. They're not looking for a loud phone that demands their attention, but a phone that blends into their life rather than being their life. And that's exactly what the Google Pixel is and always has been. After using it for a few weeks, I strangely like using it more than my Pixel 6 Pro at times because it just feels so dang good in the hand. And it can do the majority of what my Pixel 6 Pro can do. Back when the Pixel 3a first came out, I couldn't help but use it and think it was so crazy that it was so inexpensive. Since then, Google has dramatically improved the design, fit, and feel of the devices, and now we get this. And as I hold it in my hand, I still think, holy cow, how in the world is this only $450? Right now, Google has the most confident, clear, and refined lineup ever with a cohesive design language, and with each tier conveniently having a step up for each category of spec ranging from the display, RAM, storage options, battery, cameras, and more. Honestly, this chart looks like a product manager's wet dream. It's so perfectly differentiated. That means you have the option of higher specs if you're willing to pay for it, and if you're not, you have the option that comes at a low price point and isn't bloated with specs that would have inflated the price beyond affordability. If you're still frustrated about the Google Pixel 6a despite its great price and perfect symphony of parts and features, then this phone isn't for you. In my opinion, I can't think of a reason why I wouldn't suggest this to people. It checks off all the boxes of the things that matter, and I feel like I'd be giving them an option that they'd be happy with because it keeps the main things and has a great delight to dollar ratio. But what do you think? Was the Pixel 6a made for you? If so, you can easily purchase it with the link in the description or right here. I'd love to know what makes it the right fit for you. What do you think about the crazy tech nerds making a fuss? Leave a comment below and join the This Is Tech Today community Discord chat server. There's a link in the description. Thanks for watching This Is Tech Today. Until next time.